Welcome to the first edition of AM to PM Sports. I am Dakota Johnson, and I am joined by Alex Shirley. We're going to dive headfirst into the playoff action, and the first matchup we're going to cover is between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are the AFC champ, and since their bye week have gone 6-2. Their wins have come between the then undefeated Bengals, the Jets, the Saints, the Colts, the Titans, and the Jaguars. They have won with three different quarterbacks and have shown bunch of versatility to get the job done winning these games over this stretch. One thing has been the same, however, and probably the catalyst to them winning is their defense. Their defense has ratcheted up since the bye week, and they are undefeated in every game in which they force two turnovers or more. They are facing potentially the hottest team coming into the playoffs, the Kansas City Chiefs, who have won 10 straight since going 1-5. Their defense has allowed the fewest points in the NFL. Shirley, give me some insight about this matchup.
The Chiefs are one of the hottest teams in the NFL. I will say this: Marcus Peters is a rookie and leads the NFL in interceptions, and he's going to be the rookie of the year, obviously. Travis Kelce has broken out this year as one of the top tight ends in the league. And Alex Smith, after starting 1-5, people were calling for him to be benched for Chase Daniel, but that would have been a big mistake because he turned out to have a streak of not throwing an interception. And the Chiefs have a good defense and one of the best safeties in the league in Eric Berry after his numerous fight from cancer last year, and now is returning to the Pro Bowl. Chiefs have one of the top defenses in the NFL, while the Texans, they have obviously the best defensive player in the NFL in J.J. Watt. However, they've been struggling at the quarterback position with Brandon Weeden, Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett, and T.J. Yates. I do expect them to struggle with the quarterback position, and I don't see this team competing for a Super Bowl until they get a quarterback. However, they did make the playoffs in a very weak AFC South, but however, DeAndre Hopkins has turned into one of the best young receivers in the league. However, I do expect the Chiefs to win because of Alex Smith, and they're the better overall team than Houston.
I do have the Chiefs winning, and a defensive struggle with points will come by the minimum. The next matchup we will talk about is between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the AFC North champions, the Bengals. The series is split 1-1, and the Steelers took the last game 33-20. Andy Dalton, of course, got hurt early in that game. Andy Dalton is expected to play in this week's game. Shirley, give me some insight about this matchup.
These two teams have very bad blood between each other. These matches always get chippy. The rivalry goes way back. However, Andy Dalton got hurt, and A.J. McCarron came in and went 2-1. And basically, it seems like they haven't missed a beat. And since Andy Dalton's expected to play, they'll probably be even better. However, with Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown, the best wide receiver quarterback combination in the NFL, arguably, and despite Le'Veon Bell going down, DeAngelo Williams has taken his place and done a very great job. And despite him going down against the Bengals, not the Bengals, against the Browns with an ankle injury, I do expect him to play, and I expect big plays from Martavis Bryant, the best number 2 wide receiver in the league, arguably, and Marcus Wheaton has emerged, and Heath Miller to make some plays. Despite the defense being weak and the Bengals having the better overall defense and their better secondary in Adam Pac-Man Jones, Dre Kirkpatrick, and Reggie Nelson, and one of the best linebackers in the NFL in Vontaze Burfict, and arguably the best defensive tackle in the NFL, Geno Atkins, I do expect the Steelers to win because they have the experience and they have the better quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger.
The last thing you want to give an NFL team is a second chance, and that's exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers have been rewarded, sneaking their way into the playoffs after blowing their chance of controlling their own destiny in Week 16 with a loss to the Ravens. They went on to get back into the playoff hunt, however, by winning Week 17 and Rex Ryan and the Bills beating the Jets, giving them the chance to get back into the playoffs. And I believe they are still a deadly team that no one wants to face, and Cincinnati has a tough matchup this week. Give me Pittsburgh to win this week and potentially go very deep into these playoffs. The next matchup we'll talk about, and the first in the NFC, is between the Seahawks and the Vikings. The Vikings are the NFC North champions, but the Seahawks won December 6th, 38-7. I expect the exact same result, as the Seahawks will steamroll the Vikings this week. They're inexperienced as the Vikings. This is just the Seahawks' time. They don't start playing until around December, and now it's January. Things are really about to ratchet up, and they're going to turn up the heat. And I don't think the Vikings can stay in the kitchen much longer. Shirley, what do you think about this game?
Well, Seattle obviously went 4-0 in December. Russell Wilson's playing the best of his career, basically. I don't think he's even thrown an interception or basically have been blowing out teams from the North. While Cam Chancellor's holdout did come to affect him at the end, it cost him the division. I don't expect and a potential home game. Well, Seattle has been on fire recently. The Legion of Boom has seemed to come together, and the defense has come together. And despite the absence of Jimmy Graham, the offense has seemed to gotten better without him. And Tyler Lockett is become one of the best young receivers in the league. And I expect, despite the absence of Marshawn Lynch, Seattle, I expect him not to affect him in this game. However, Minnesota was one of the teams we expected to break out this year, and a very young quarterback on the rise in Teddy Bridgewater, and the best running back in the NFL who led the NFL again in rushing yards, in Adrian Peterson.
The last matchup we're going to talk about is between the Green Bay Packers and the Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins are the NFC East champions, and they play as a different team on the road than they do at home. They have won 9 games on the season, and 6 of those coming at home. Kirk Cousins plays out of his mind at home, and I don't expect anything different this week going up against a struggling and stuttering Packers team. Shirley, what do you expect from this game?
Well, obviously, the Packers' offense is not what we expected it to be this year. Obviously, the loss of Jordan Nelson has significantly hurt them. They've lost a lot of leadership, and the receiver, Randall Cobb, does not seem to be the receiver he was last year. Vontae Adams has not stepped up. He's been very inconsistent at catching the ball, and however, they have found a consistent tight end in Richard Rodgers, and James Jones, while he's had some moments, is not really a top receiver in the league. However, while the Redskins have had a very surprising season in a very weak NFC East, they did make the step and won the NFC East. Kirk Cousins has been on fire this year, and he had a very good year. And obviously, I think the biggest difference is Jordan Reed when he's healthy. He's a top 5 tight end, but he just needs to stay healthy. While their running game, they've had emergence from the running game is very solid with Matt Jones occasionally making plays, and Alfred Morris hasn't been as good as he has been in years past, but he still can be reliable at times. However, I think the Packers are a better team and will win this game just because they have a better quarterback in Aaron Rodgers and one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Give me Washington in that matchup. Before the playoffs come, there is a special event throughout the NFL called Black Monday, where coaches are pink-slipped and must find a new job if they want to stay in the NFL or even in the coaching ranks. There are already openings in Miami, Tennessee, Philadelphia. Tom Coughlin and the Giants are expected to split ways the way Chuck Pagano and the Indianapolis Colts are expected to head their separate ways. The Browns will fire Mike Pettin, and Tom Sula will no longer be the man in charge in San Francisco. Some other potential head coaching changes come from Detroit, where Jim Caldwell's future is in question. Mike McCoy is in question in San Diego or Los Angeles. And even potentially Sean Payton is rumored to be wanting out of New Orleans. Shirley, Black Monday is a big event. Tell me who should be in and who should be out.
Well, Tom Coughlin should be out, no question, because he's missed the playoff 4 years in a row, and basically despite all the things he's done, I know he's won 2 Super Bowls. 2 of the 4 years, the NFC East hasn't been that good, and there's no excuse he should have missed the playoffs, and therefore he should either be fired or resign, even though he's done a lot of good things. I think Gus Bradley should be fired on the Jacksonville Jaguars because they've missed the playoffs 3 years in a row, and even though they have had impressive debuts from Allen Robinson and Blake Bortles, I don't think they've shown they've become a better team, and I think just a change needs to be done in Jacksonville. However, another coach that is probably going to be going through the front office mess is Jim Caldwell. Even though not all of it's his fault that they've regressed this year, they just haven't been that great this year, and I just don't expect him to return. And I don't expect Mike McCoy to return because of their potential move to Los Angeles. Chuck Pagano don't expect to turn because of the front tension between him, GM Ryan Grigson, and owner Jim Irsay. But one coach that I think should be fired that's not going to be fired, even though I think he should, is St. Louis Rams coach Jeff Fisher. They have regressed. The defense, even though he's a defensive guy, the defense is completely underachieved in his 4 years, and they've mishandled the quarterback situation there. While Sam Bradford never could stay healthy, they tried to trade him in the offseason for Nick Foles, who did not live up to the hype, and they had to bench him for Case Keenum. And until they have a quarterback, St. Louis is not going anywhere soon, and that's to the fault of Jeff Fisher for not addressing it in the draft or maybe at least free agency, and therefore Jeff Fisher should not be back at the St. Louis Rams because they've regressed each year. Sean Payton, I expect to be back just for 1 year, but he's going to be on the complete hot seat. He'll be under scrutiny by the ownership of the Rams. Go to the playoffs or else you're gone. That's what I think they're going to do with him.
One coaching opening that is for sure will be the Tennessee Titans, as Mike Mularkey, went 2-9 in his chance this year and should not come back as the Titans head coach. Shirley, who should the Titans be looking and have on their to-watch list for new head coach?
Well, it's no question their choice should be Hugh Jackson, basically, because Hugh Jackson has past 2 years has had a top 10 offense for the Bengals, and he's made Andy Dalton, gotten the best out of Andy Dalton, AJ Green, Jeremy Hill, and those guys. And basically, he went 8-8 in Oakland, kind of got a raw deal because Al Davis hired him, and then Al Davis died that year. He got fired by general manager Reggie McKenzie, and basically Reggie McKenzie ended up hiring Dennis Allen. That backfired, and basically Hugh Jackson deserves a second chance. He should be the top choice. However, other choices you'll probably hear: David Shaw, Terrell Austin. David Shaw, the Stanford head coach. Basically, Stanford historically produces great college to pro coaches. Look at Jim Harbaugh, look at Bill Walsh, look at Dennis Green, and I think they should seriously consider David Shaw, the job he's done at Stanford. Adam Gase is another one, offensive coordinator of the Bears. He was the offensive coordinator of the Bears for 1 year, and for the Broncos with Peyton Manning for 2 years. While Jay Cutler is not the best quarterback, he's had a little bit better season as a quarterback, and that should at least count for something. Well, the Bears weren't horribly awful with Adam Gase. I think he should be considered, and coaches you also hear Sean McDermott, Jim Mora Jr., Brian Kelly, and Terrell Austin. Coaches they should avoid are Josh McDaniels, because Josh McDaniels got fired in the middle of the season in Denver, and basically he says, due to the ownership situation, he says he wants like a clear owner if he wants to take a job. And I don't think, and Bill Belichick assistants haven't really succeeded. I don't think they should go after Josh McDaniels. Kyle Shanahan, the offense seemed to regress under him, and he seemed to be part of the problem because he was clashing with Matt Ryan, basically. And despite having Devontae Freeman, Julio Jones, and Matt Ryan, the Falcons' offense did not seem to improve, and they seemed to sputter with Kyle Shanahan. They should completely avoid Todd Haley and Darrell Bevell because it seems like fans want them fired and just don't think that'd be a match. And
one name I haven't heard you mention is Chip Kelly.
I don't think that'd be a fit for the Titans, but I do think he would bring some good things. They did go 10-6, lost in the first round, 10-6, missed the playoffs, but did hold on to the division that lead, and then went 6-10. Just whatever it. Chip Kelly made some very questionable personnel decision. With the main one being the Sam Bradford trade for Nick Foles, and not effectively replacing LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, or Jeremy Maclin. Did not really, although he traded them and really didn't replace them with any good players. You can't do that with the league. And he does bring a good offense, and despite him reuniting with Mariota, who was his coach at Oregon, while that would sell tickets and stuff, I'm not sure there's some players in the locker room that I think have some work ethic issues, and I have concerns that some of those players, they really didn't want to play hard for Ken Whisenhunt. I'm not sure they'd play hard for Chip Kelly. However, if they do go that route, I think it would work for the short term. Long term, just not sure.
I don't believe Chip Kelly is the right hire for the Titans, but if the Titans do decide to hire Chip Kelly, I would support him and hope the Titans can move forward and he can make us a successful franchise like every fan should, except for wishing the death and the same just rut that the Tennessee Titans are in. I believe more than a coach, the Tennessee Titans need a coach that can provide an identity. The Titans have had questionable picks in the last 4 to 5 years, just drafting players that don't fit any mold or really any scheme. They don't have an identity. They don't have one brand of football or one thing that they can hang their hat on, place as the cornerstone of their franchise, as a building block, and say, this is what we do better than any other team. I look at this Tennessee roster, and I just see a mess. I see a bunch of players that can play in this system. I see a bunch of players that can fit in that system. Do we want to run a 3-4? Do we want to run a 4-3? Do we want to run the ball? Do we want to pass the ball? I don't know what's going on in Tennessee, and whoever we hire should be an identity coach and should hang his hat on one philosophy and one brand of football and come in and change Tennessee. If Tennessee did hire Chip Kelly, I believe that'd be the best move for Chip Kelly because Marcus Mariota has seen this scheme and the product in Oregon succeed, and he could be the leader that Chip Kelly needs in the locker room to have Chip Kelly guys. Chip Kelly was quoted saying, "Culture defeats scheme," because he knew he lost the locker room in the Philadelphia, and no scheme can outplay the players when they don't want to play for you and they want you out. So Marcus Mariota needs to be a vocal leader for the next step he needs to take to be a great quarterback in the NFL, which I believe he will be. I don't know if Chip Kelly is the greatest thing for Marcus Mariota, but I believe Marcus Mariota and the Titans would be the greatest thing for Chip Kelly if he wanted to coach in the NFL. If he went 6-10, 10-6, 10-6, I say hell, make him the mayor of Davidson County. We need a winner around here, and I don't care if it comes short term, long term. I'm just really tired of these 3-13, 2-14, seemingly disappointing seasons year after year. We need direction, we need a voice, and we need a cornerstone. For the first episode of AM to the PM Sports, for Alex Shirley, I am Dakota Johnson. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Go Tops!